We got Floyd Mayweather saying that Shakur Stevenson is the heir to the throne. He calls Shakur Stevenson mini TBE. So that kind of tells me that it's no longer Tank as the kind of apprentice of Floyd Mayweather. It's now Shakur Stevenson. He sees Shakur as that guy that he can kind of guide. And, ever since, Floyd Mayweather and Gervonta Davis kind of had a falling out, all of their, conflict that they've had has resulted in Shakur Stevenson and Floyd becoming kind of close. So who knows? I really want to see Shakur Stevenson and Tank go at it, because that is a narrative to it. They've sparred before. They've both had relationships with Floyd Mayweather. They're both very familiar with him. Floyd has given both guys some guidance throughout their successful careers. Shakur Stevenson has accomplished a lot on paper, and Tank has accomplished a lot on pay-per-view, and being that sensational star to the sport of boxing, that superstar that we need to keep the sport alive and pushing. I would argue Tank is the only active fighter really getting people excited about the sport and bringing new fans into the sport of boxing. You have guys like Inouye, you have guys like Ryan Garcia, but Ryan's obviously suspended, so you could say Inouye, Crawford. But in terms of superstars right now, I would say that Tank alone is that guy. He's the biggest draw in the sport. Canelo's there too, but when it comes to continuously showing growth and more improvement, that's impressive, and putting on these tremendous performances, every time you're like, how could he top his last fight? Tank finds a way to do it and make it exciting for the fans. He makes sure that those fans go home not unsatisfied with what they saw in the ring and on television, on pay-per-view. Everybody's satisfied after a Tank fight. There's nobody like it. There's a lot of fighters that are good, but they're not very exciting. A lot of fighters that are exciting, but they just don't sell as many pay-per-views because they're not that good. They have some losses. But you have a guy like Tank who's undefeated, and he does it all. He can box, he can defend himself, and I think his defense is overrated. His boxing is also underrated when it comes to his IQ. So I'm excited once he faces a guy like Shakur Stevenson, maybe faces a guy like Teofimo Lopez. I think we're going to see that side of Tank that showcases more of that boxing, and I'm excited to see it, because I really don't feel like we've seen the best version of Tank yet. Tank's coach Calvin Ford and Coach Kenny Ellis always say, this isn't even the best version of Tank, and I agree. I feel like there's still, that ceiling hasn't been reached for Tank. I don't even know where the ceiling is at for him, because he does have the power, he does have the talent, and he does have the defense. When he doesn't want to get hit, Tank won't get hit. So that's something that's special about Gervonta Tank Davis. But obviously the thing that's lacking with Tank is the resume, and that's something that everybody in boxing is kind of pushing for now, because now that Tank is approaching 30 years old, and the biggest name on his resume is probably Pedraza or Ryan Garcia right now, right? So other than that, there hasn't really been a huge credible name, and a lot of people like to give excuses for Ryan Garcia, saying that he was weight drained, although that may be true. And Pedraza, maybe not in his prime, but still, the performance that Tank had against both Pedraza and Ryan Garcia were impressive to me. I would give him credit for that. You can't satisfy every critic who says that this guy wasn't in his prime, this guy was too old, this guy was weight drained. There are always going to be excuses. Look at Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao. Both of these guys have had legendary careers, but people still like to discredit their wins. Floyd doesn't get credit for his win over Manny. Manny doesn't really get credit for a lot of his wins, saying, Floyd already beat Ricky Hatton, and Floyd and Oscar already fought, stuff like that. So it's a lot of he said this, she said that, but never giving credit to the fighter. So for Tank Davis, it's just important that he fights the best out there, and I think when I say that, I'm alluding to Shakur Stevenson, I'm alluding to Teofimo Lopez, and I still wouldn't mind seeing Devin Haney get in the ring with Tank Davis. All great fights, but the fight I really wanted to see was Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Tank Davis, but obviously Shakur signed with Matchroom, this past week, so now he's fighting Joe Cordina, he's a good fighter, but I don't think he beat Shakur Stevenson. Another fight that I think is put together to make Shakur Stevenson look good and maybe increase that stock, because he hasn't had performances where the fans have been too happy with him. He's dealt with a lot of hate online, which I understand. A lot of fans, the whole purpose of boxing is to entertain people, right? The whole purpose, bottom line, I'm not saying that, you know, it's boxing has to be, you know, a firefight. I'm not saying that every boxer has to throw haymakers and try to knock the other out, because that's not the name of the game. If you want to watch something like that, that's more like the UFC, where it's a lot more unpredictable than boxing in a lot of ways. But when it comes to boxing, Shakur Stevenson, you know, as good as he is, he's a great boxer, but when it comes to bringing fans from, you know, outside of the sport of boxing, Tank has more success because he knocks guys out, and people like that brutality aspect. That gets them more excited, because I always feel like even if you're a new fan, you're gonna enjoy the knockouts before you're gonna enjoy the sweet science. I think that's just the way it is. You're a casual first, and then you evolve into that real purist, you know, mindset. And you know, people like Tank, because they're seeing those knockout performances, people aren't gonna appreciate what Shakur Stevenson is doing until they understand the importance of actually boxing and not necessarily having to get a knockout. Being able to beat a guy and be dominant throughout 12 rounds is just as impressive as getting a knockout when it comes to the sport of boxing. You know, I'm not saying that Tank knocking a guy out in the first round is the same as Shakur Stevenson going the distance, but they're both dominant performers in their own regards. It's not like just because Tank gets all the knockouts doesn't mean he's way better than Shakur Stevenson. When they clash, you guys know I got Tank because of the power, but it's not to say that Shakur can't pull off a decision. It's just how I feel the fight is going to go. I just think that Shakur is going to have to, you know, basically be perfect in that fight. Tank doesn't have to be perfect. He needs that one moment where he lands something big on Shakur Stevenson, but it's not going to be easy, because you're talking about one of the best, if not the best, defensive fighter in the sport of boxing when it comes to Shakur Stevenson. But it's going to be a great fight regardless. I'm excited to see that. You know, I think it's one of those fights that like has to go down the sport of boxing at least next year by the latest. I really want to see that one, and we're not going to see it in 2024, but that's got to be a big fight plan for 2025, because I think the sport of boxing needs it. We need to find out who's the real top guy at 135, and that fight determines it. Shakur Stevenson versus Tank, and it's a toss-up, but for me, I have to lean towards the guy with power. I think that makes the difference. If Tank didn't have as much power, I'd probably go with Shakur Stevenson, but because he can, knock a guy out with one shot, the power, that he possesses, one single punch landed on Shakur Stevenson can change the whole course of the fight. So I got to go with Tank in that, but it's a great fight regardless. I could see either guy pulling it off, but let me know in the comments what you guys think. Floyd Mayweather kind of switching sides to Shakur Stevenson, calling him mini TBE, and now Floyd and Gervonta not on the best terms. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about that, but thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, I will catch you guys on the next Nabs boxing video. Thanks for watching. Peace.
That's going to do it for another Nabs Fight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Manabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.